Get ready. It's time. Katherine, Lisa, welcome to the Cimorelli podcast.
Hey, I'm Katherine.
And I'm Lisa.
And we're part of Cimorelli.
Oh, that was so hard to do.
Feels so weird to do that. Welcome back to
the Cimorelli podcast.
See, I'm glad in this episode we have the original accent person to give you what you're used to.
Oh my gosh. So, the Cimorelli podcast, I'm doing Christina's script, is a fun, uplifting podcast where we also focus a lot on self-improvement and personal growth. We share juicy stories, discuss personal topics, and get vulnerable and real with you guys.
Every other episode is available only on Patreon, and Patreon also gets the YouTube episodes a week early, which is pretty lit. So join Patreon today. So we're doing something completely different and new today. We are going to be interviewing each other. We're ending season 4 with a bang, and we have these last 3 episodes where it's just going to be each of us kind of like interviewing a different sister. So that's kind of fun. And then season 5 will be coming at the end of 2020. So stay tuned for season 5 around the corner. All right. You want to jump into the interviews?
Sure do. And first, Catherine's going to interview me. So
Yay.
Buckle up.
Okay. So first, our task is I'm going to describe Lisa's personality from my point of view, which I think describing Lisa is very hard because she's a very unique person. I honestly don't really know anyone that reminds me of Lisa. Really.
Wow.
I'll see like comedy things or something online where I'm like, oh, that humor kind of reminds me of Lisa a little bit, but I also don't know those people. So in my real life, I can't really say I know anyone that really reminds me of you.
Oh my gosh.
Lisa is okay. How do I describe her? This is hard. Lisa is, she's very, okay. There's different elements to her. One element is she's very logical and analytical and like fact based. And like, if you have a flaw in your argument, she'll probably point it out and just be like, nope, that's wrong. She's very like to the point with like, she's good at seeing errors and like kind of pointing them out and noticing the discrepancies. So she would be really good for any type of job where you have to like keep things in line and make sure you haven't like made an error.
LOL.
I don't know what that's called, but it's like, do you know what the word for that is? Some people say meticulous or whatever, but I don't know. She's very detail oriented, driven, hardworking. If she's passionate about something, she'll put her mind to it and she will achieve and work really hard. Like her singing, she was really into dancing when she was a teenager. She worked really hard at that. Stretching, she wanted to be flexible. Boxing, like she's just a very hard worker and puts a lot into the things that she's passionate about. She's very funny, and I think what makes Lisa the most funny is that she has her own sense of humor. So Lisa's not someone to like recycle a joke that someone else made. She makes up her own like things, and that's what really catches you by surprise. So I think it's like the element of surprise that is what makes her humor so different. And lastly, I would say Lisa's very caring about relationships. She is very like peaceful and wants to keep the peace and harmony. She's good at like peacemaking between people, and sometimes she like avoids conflict and doesn't really say
sometimes.
Well, a lot of the time, pretty much all the time, she doesn't really like conflict, and she avoids like rocking the boat because she doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings or make anyone feel bad. But I think she's really grown in standing up for herself and not letting the people pleasing take over too much, and really learning to like find her voice. Wow. So that's how I describe Lisa. But there's so many more details. I feel like I could go on and on. That's just like in a nutshell.
Well, that was really nice, so thank you.
Oh, well, I feel like I was just being pretty objective, honestly.
I was like, wow.
Okay, so first question is kind of taking it back to the beginning. In our family, what would you say was like your role? Like, how do you feel like you fit in? And keep in mind, if you're new to us, to this whole podcast and us as a family, we have 11 kids in our family. So we have 6 girls and 5 boys and same parents and everything. So where do you kind of feel like you fit into that giant organism?
Okay, this is hard because when I was really little, I didn't feel like I had a role. I literally just felt like an invisible child. Like I was just like floating through time and space. But I don't know. And then as a teenager, I just felt like a weirdo. And again, like I felt like there was little groups in the family of like, oh, Christina and Michael, and like actually I had you three, and sometimes I'd like tagging along, and then like Lauren and Danny and the three little boys, but then like there was just some of us like me and Alex and Amy that were just like random like floaters between everyone. So I honestly don't feel like I have a role in our family, and I never have. I just feel like a member of it.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's interesting.
Do you feel like I have a role in our family?
I don't know. I just always thought of like me, you, and Christina as a group.
Kind of. Not anymore,
like,
though.
More as teenagers.
As teenagers,
like when we were
yes.
younger. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were always kind of like together in things.
Yeah.
And probably because we went to college together and like we did a lot of the same activities.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's
I
true.
do agree that you kind of like really kept to yourself for a long time, and it felt like you were kind of just like hidden away a little bit in like in the family sometimes, because and you were definitely more introverted, so you're not
like
one to like
people did it to me. It's just that it was like the way that I felt. Yeah.
And you were more introverted, so you weren't one to like insert yourself if other people, and there was a lot of extroverts in our family who did insert themselves, so a lot of the introverts kind of just like faded back. So I could see that.
Interesting. I never thought about that.
Okay, so the next question is, what are your earliest memories of your experience with music? Like playing instruments or singing, or like when did you fall in love with music, I guess?
My earliest memories. I remember dancing in the living room when we were like, when I was like 5.
Yes.
Like, oh, the cops in the donut shop say, way,
oh my gosh.
Like, just like 80s music. I do remember that.
Yes.
I remember singing in the church choir, which was kind of fun. But again, I didn't really have emotions until I was like 12. So I don't consciously remember the feeling of enjoying anything until I was 12. I remember saying, I like this, but I don't have an emotional memory of it. But I remember feeling like I love music when I was 13, I want to say. Is the first time I actually was like, wow, this is what I want to do. And I love this.
Okay. So more like as an early teen, that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, so this is kind of jumping forward a little bit. If you guys, are new to this, we made a YouTube channel, and then it kind of blew up in 2009. And with that, there came a lot of internet hate and like kind of trolls. So what was your experience with internet hate? Like, how did you deal with it? And how do you deal with it now? It's definitely still something I feel like that's present.
More so now for me, because I think before I used to be so extreme with my people pleasing on the internet in particular. When we first started, like every message I sent had like so many smiley faces and was like so incredibly nice. I was like, and it was genuine. I was like, I don't want anyone to think that I don't like them or that I'm mad or I was like kind of obsessed with coming across well and like making sure people know like I'm so thankful for them. Like it was almost like really guilt driven, like I can't let anyone think that I'm ungrateful or I'm mean or whatever. So I really felt like that. I don't know if that was the reason, but I really feel like I didn't get a lot of hate, maybe just because I was like the outreach was insane of like trying to reply to every message and every comment and just keep extreme peace with people. Then it built more and more, and I feel like I kind of got exhausted and realized like, that's not like your responsibility. You don't have to do that all the time. And I kind of started to...
It can be very draining.
Yes. I tried to like find my own life again and like not be on the internet 24/7. And then, I started being a little less extremely sensitive about things that I say online. And I did start to get misinterpreted and stuff just because I wasn't being so incredibly careful. And the environment or the atmosphere of the internet kind of changed. It was a newer environment of more like terror. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just really intense.
People were a lot more like no holds barred.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't feel like there was like trolls are more like random back in the day, not like the norm. And now everyone's like, ah. Yeah. But nowadays if I'm getting a lot of hate about something, whether I did something wrong or right or at all, just when there's hate coming at you, regardless of what happened, it's bad for your mental health, and you can't sit there and deal with it in the moment. You have to unplug. So I always like shut my phone off, leave social media or whatever, take a break, reflect. Did I do something wrong? Was I misinterpreted? Or did I actually just say something that wasn't good? Or is someone just mad at me or whatever? And I kind of reflect and process and then either try to address it or just let it pass depending on what happened, And I think the number one thing I do is always take a break, because once it goes south, there's no fixing it right away.
Yeah, I feel like that's really important to take breaks on social media because it's not real life and it feels like it is, but it's really not. And once you step out of it, you're like, oh, real people that actually know me tend to be a lot more like forgiving because they realize I'm a human being rather than like an internet image.
Well, and it's so weird because if you're getting flooded with hate, you suddenly feel like your life is a war and you're at war. But then if you shut your phone off and you like check in with yourself and it's like, wow, I'm sitting in an empty room. It's dead silent.
I'm not at war.
There's no noise. There's no people. No one's here. Like, none of these people can contact me if I don't have this, you know? Like these people that have never met me. So if you unplug for a day or a week or whatever is happening in your life, it's not there. It's only on the phone. It's like, that's the beauty of it, is you can get away from it.
Yeah, when it comes to like internet, it's like people only have as much power over you than that you give them. Like you could literally can just check out of it and then you're not engaging in that.
Yeah.
That's really important to remember, to like take the power back. Okay, so I think this is a really good question. So we started this band in 2009, which means that it's been 11 years, which is crazy. We actually technically we actually started it 2 years before that.
2007.
We were playing shows around our town. We went to this little recording studio in Sacramento and did like an EP in 2008. Like we've been, so I guess we've technically been doing the band for 13 years. Yeah, till 2020. So this is a great question, kind of.
Sorry, 2005 wasn't it? Isn't that when we did? Oh wait. Can't tell. No, 2007.
2007. Yeah, that's how I always remember it.
06 or 07.
Around then, you guys get it. 13 to 14 years. Like, how has your experience changed being in the band? Basically growing up in the band from when you were a kid to being an adult now.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember how it even was in the beginning. I feel like it actually hasn't changed as much as you would think, because at that point I was already pretty into music, so I kind of knew what I was doing. Like, all right, here's how you make up a harmony or whatever. So I was able to like contribute in that way early on. So I kind of always had the role of like co-music director with Christina. Like when we
would like arranging like the harmonies and stuff. Yeah.
And just like when we would play as a band, remember I would help people with like the drum. Well, I'd play the drums, the like rhythms and stuff, and I'd help Amy with her guitar parts stuff. So that was always a thing. Over time, and I edit our videos from the start too, which I still do now, but I took a break for a while. I'm trying to think. Okay, we didn't record our covers at first. That came in later, where I started getting involved in like recording and not really music production, more just piano. But like now I arrange half of or most of our covers depending on the song, and I oversee like the vocal production, like the recording of the harmonies. Not everyone else's leads, they handle that on their own. And I like mix them before they go off to the mastering guy. So I'm like really involved in specifically the vocals of our covers. The production Lauren handles more, but vocal wise, that's something that I didn't do from the start because we didn't do that. I'm trying to think.
I think another element of this question would be like, how has your experience with the band been, like emotionally, like spiritually, mentally, like how has your relationship to being in a band been too?
Okay, in the beginning, it was like, we didn't have to pay rent. We didn't have like finances.
We lived with our parents.
Yeah, we lived with our parents.
We were kids, obviously.
We were just kids, and it was just like dream. We were just dreaming all day. Like, where do we want to go? Like, the sky's the limit. What do we want to do?
Visualizing.
We were always dreaming, and we were always fighting. We did not know much about how to get along, and like I would say Christina's personality was even more intense than it used to be. Like the more soft people were even softer than they are now. So it was just very extreme, and we had a lot of tension, and we didn't really know how to get along all the time. And then so I remember just witnessing a lot of arguments and being stressed out. And then you have these magical moments where like we're having so much fun and something amazing happens, and it was really dramatic.
It's like high highs, low lows.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was just always switching. And then it kind of, and that continued for a long time. And then I feel like as we learned more about psychology and communication stuff, like the group dynamic got better. But I actually stayed in my position of like not telling anyone what I'm thinking or feeling like most of the time up until a year ago. Like, I kept the same, like, I wasn't able to separate myself from the group dynamic. So I was just like, oh yeah, the group's doing better, but not realizing like, oh gee, I still sit here and like be mad at people or be hurt or be sad and like just don't say anything. It's like a habit. I didn't even realize that, oh yeah, like I thought it was just impossible to speak up. My brain's just like, oh yeah, you don't do that. And recently I'm like, oh, I have to start, I can change. I can say something and like change my experience. I can give some of my work away when I'm having too much to do.
Even you started standing up for yourself with comedy. Like you started, do you remember like, well, you've done this in the last year where like you would truly be mad, but you would kind of make it into a joke and then act like, but then you'd be like, but I was kind of serious.
Yes.
So it was like you kind of eased your way in and we would all be laughing because it was funny, but you were truly expressing that you were upset, myself. Which was like a good practice. Yeah.
I would just start like, I'm so mad right now. I want to punch you. And everyone's like laughing, but I'm saying I want to punch someone.
Yeah, she'd make it into like a song.
It's a weird way to make it work. And when I express it so dramatically, then it would kind of melt away because I'm like, all right, I don't really want to punch her. Yeah, I don't know. I guess there's like the group dynamic, but for me, it's been a long, slow journey of finally evolving of like, wow, I have more control over my experience than I like to realize. Like I can say no to things and not do as much as I have to do and like, you know, distribute my work better and not take on so much all the time because I have like this people pleasing thing inside of me that's like, you have to. So
that's a big
theme
work in a lot of stuff. It's like finding your voice and standing up for yourself and realizing that it's okay to do that. And it makes things better too. Because like when you're upset, we feel it. Like we feel that there's resentment.
I know. And I'm just sitting there like,
No, but your face, like you have this subtle like curl at the bottom of your lips where you're just like you just kind of look frowny.
Hello.
When you like go on your phone more
I
and
always
you're like,
look frowny.
I'm ticked. Yeah, a little bit, but I could just tell. So it definitely makes it better. It's definitely better for have someone be mad and kind of like angry and just say it than just sitting there for hours like pretending not to be mad.
Such a habit. That's the thing too, is with the family, it's my least development. With like my friends, I'm doing great, and my fiance, like I've learned because it doesn't go as deep into my past. So it's like, oh, a new opportunity to speak up. I learned something about communication. I'll apply it here. I'll apply it there. But then with the family, I have these deep habits of like, oh, I could tell anyone how I feel about this or that, except for my sisters or except for my mom. Not my mom. Just because of the habits, not because of like the way that they treat me or whatever, just my mental
Well, it's
state.
also our past wounds.
Yeah.
Because like we had a lot of times when we were younger and teenagers where we didn't speak up and we have like these past wounds.
Yes.
So it doesn't feel as safe.
It's so compounded too of like, I didn't talk about this or that or this or that. And then it's like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? There's so much.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers there. It comes like it's not necessarily about the band usually when we're upset. There's like a deeper
it's
like
so personal.
sister issue. Yeah, totally.
Also, I'm on the second day of my big time of the month. So
me too.
I keep getting choked up and I'm like, is everyone who watching this like, Lisa looked like she was about to cry the whole time because I was, but it's hormones.
Right.
I cried really loud on the phone this morning with my fiance. I was like, you don't get it, I'm on my period. He's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I was like, stop talking to me.
Oh my gosh,
I can't handle it.
That's another fact about Lisa. She's the funniest. I mean, it's no offense from the outside.
No, I
on her
it.
period, she's very, her hormones
wild,
get the best of her.
So emotional.
Yeah,
anyway.
I get that actually the week before. That's more of my thing.
I used to. Not anymore.
Yeah, the week of I'm fine, but the week before I'm like, everyone hates me. It's horrible. Okay, so next question is, what was the coolest moment for you as an artist that you covered? Wait, sorry, I said that wrong. What was the coolest experience of an artist you covered discovering our music? So like,
oh my gosh,
I just dropped my water.
Nice. I would say like last week, Louis Capaldi posted our cover on his Instagram, and I freaked out. Oh my gosh. You know what? There's more behind the scenes things that happened. Like when we did our cover with James Charles, he like showed us his text with Demi Lovato where she's like, oh, I loved your cover with the Cimorelli girls. And I was like, the Cimorelli girls?
Yeah.
That sounds like someone who knows who we
band,
are.
yeah.
You would just say those sisters or those girls or whatever if you didn't know who we were. I was like, because I love Demi Lovato. Oh my gosh. The fact that she even watched the video, I was shook. But the fact that she like mentioned us and said we did great, I was like, oh my gosh. You wouldn't say the Cimorelli girls if you didn't know who we were. You would say like, oh, those girls. Or you just say great video. You wouldn't mention it. But she's like, the Cimorelli girls, which is what like people who know us call us. Mm-hmm. So I was shook about that. And you know what? Okay, the last one I will say is another behind the scenes one. This guy that we met who dated Selena Gomez, which is public knowledge. It wasn't a lie. Like, everyone knows that he dated her. I'm not going to say who it is because I just want to protect their privacy or whatever, because he dated her a long time ago. But he was like, oh, yeah, I love your YouTube videos, blah, blah, blah. Me and Selena used to sit around and watch them all the time. He's like, that's how I found you guys or something. That. I was like, what? I love the secret things that no one tells us, because, like, neither of Demi or Selena like told us, oh, I've seen your videos, whatever. But freaking Selena Gomez used to watch our videos all the time. Yeah. So that blew my mind.
LOL. That's funny. I forgot about that. That was weird.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't even have to fact check this. I already know that you dated her, and obviously you know public. Who we are because you wanted to meet us. So it's all real.
I was just starstruck because I liked his band.
I know, me too.
Okay. So next question, what would you say to yourself back when you had just started the band? So I guess it's kind of like, what would you say to the younger you?
Yeah.
You know, like advice, I guess.
I would, referencing a few questions back when I was such a people pleaser, it's not that it's bad to be nice to people, because I'm glad that I was like so nice to everyone, but I really felt like, I owed everyone all of my time. Like, I always needed to be online, responding to people, making sure like, oh, like, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want anyone to feel ignored. And I would tell myself now, like, it's great to be nice and like put in that time. It's worth it, but maybe don't feel so responsible for other people, because it's not your job to make everyone happy. If you think of it as more of like a favor, like, oh, this is a nice thing to do for someone, not I have to do this or they're going to die, because then you end up giving away all of your time, and now you're busy taking care of all these thousands of people, but you're not taking care of yourself, and no one else is doing that for you, so you have to do it for yourself first and then give what's left over to other people.
And we also had a lot of like dark moments of people kind of like turning on us from giving them a lot of time, and that really scars you too. It makes you like, oh, this is actually kind of dangerous. You have to be careful. Okay, what would you say is your greatest strength and your greatest weakness? That's a good deep question.
I think it's the same thing, because it's always a double-edged sword most of the time.
Lisa loves the double-edged swords. If you watch our podcast, you know.
My attention to detail, I have a hair on my nose. It constantly saves my life, advances my career, makes me catch all this stuff. Like, my attention to detail is definitely I don't know if it's like my greatest strength. I haven't really had hours and hours to ponder this, but I will say it's probably my greatest strength. But it's also my greatest weakness, because it makes me very critical and can make me like freeze up because I can't get past certain details. I mean, I've gotten a lot better at that, where it's like, all right, it doesn't have to be perfect. But before, I would make mixers do like 15 mixes of a song or more, like notes and notes and notes and notes. And I couldn't let go any tiny detail. Like, it had to be absolutely perfect, which is still good, but kind of like, you know, it kind of puts people through the ringer a little bit. So, well, and on a personal level, you know, the criticalness turns inward toward myself and outward toward other people. So it just makes me really hard on myself and other people. So learning how to like only use it in the right situations has been a blessing.
That makes a lot of sense. I've heard people say that the more critical you are towards yourself, generally, the more critical you are towards other people as well. I
always say that.
Yeah.
Because it's true.
Okay, the last question. What is a common misconception about you?
Okay, well, because I've like shaved my head and dyed my hair green and I'm kind of out of the box, and now my fiance is covered in tattoos, everyone's like, wow, Lisa's so wild. I bet she has a secret past. I bet Lisa drinks and does drugs. Like, there's all these weird theories about me, and I'm like, look, it's pretty much what you see is what you get. I don't divulge every detail of my life on the internet, but I don't lie, okay? I don't say, oh, I've never drank, but really I have, you know? Like, that's not really my thing. I really value authenticity. So if a value of mine changes, like, I will tell over time. I'm not going to lie forever, but like, the way that I present myself is the way that I am. I don't know maybe it's just hard for people to grasp that, like, oh, this kind of, edgy style, but a more clean-cut lifestyle. I don't know.
Well, that's just people stereotyping.
They get confused, maybe? I don't know, yeah. But
just because you have tattoos or colored hair or you
Yeah.
shave your head doesn't mean that you are into drugs or that you drink or anything.
yeah.
Like, that's
I don't know. Yeah,
weird.
I get it. You can make a certain assumptions based on things, but it's important to let people be individuals, which I always try to do that. And because I have shaved my head and all that stuff, and I don't live that way, then I don't put that on other people who do that. I don't really assume that about, oh, you have tattoos, you do drugs, because there's plenty of people who have tattoos that don't do drugs. So, yeah, I would just say to the people that think I am lying, maybe call me on my phone and we can talk about it. Oh, wait, you don't know me, so you can't call me. Why are you thinking so deeply about my life? That's all I'm going to say.
Rip. All right. Well,
that's
Lisa's going to
it.
flip it around.
Yes, now it's time to interview Katherine. First, I'm going to start off by describing her. Let's see. Katherine.
I know
Katherine,
it's a hard one.
Okay, I'm just going to spitball. Words that come to mind. Warm. Holy. Pure of heart. Goofy. Weird. Okay, Katherine as a child was and teenager. No,
Bizarre.
as a teenager. Katherine was so weird, but so funny. Like, people are always like, oh, Lisa's so weird, whatever. Katherine's a different brand of weird.
Yes.
Like, a little less, like, shocking, but very surprising. But not as if you knew her as a teenager. She always had these kind of goofy outfits, like lots of stripes and, like,
bright colors.
yeah, pink graphic tees. And she's, like, dancing around down the street. Like, I feel like I was more I was more weird on purpose to get attention, and you were just genuinely like a goofy character, but really funny. Like, she knows she's funny, and she's made a lot of jokes that have really hit a home run. Like that, I think that's the biggest thing Katherine doesn't get enough credit for, how funny she is.
Wow.
I wish we could.
That's like my best compliment ever.
Thank you. I wish we could make like a comedy reel, but a lot of these most of these moments are not documented. But the cameras turn on, she gets a little shy. I'm just kidding. No, there's a lot of bloopers.
There's a lot more bloopers from the past because we used to take hours to film our videos.
Yeah.
Hours, like 5 hours, just standing there in one spot. It was horrid and torturous, and I would literally just make jokes to pass the time, and then Christina would get really mad.
Yeah.
And that was like, but I just never stopped because I couldn't. Can't stop, won't stop.
She's real funny. Also, I will say generous and helpful. She's got a servant heart, like she's always like there to help people. And then you know what, she also like thinks of others a lot, like, oh, so-and-so's birthday is coming up, we need to put something together, or like, hey guys, what are we gonna do for Dad on Father's Day? Like, she's always she's kind of like a community organizer within the family, like hey guys, we got to get together and do this and that, blah blah blah. And she has a homemaker spirit, like she naturally gravitates towards the cozy things in life. And
that's
like
true.
Things like cooking and decorations and scents and candles and I don't know, fresh laundry, I don't know, stuff like that, like kind of like she wants to cultivate an atmosphere. It's really, I feel like it's really important to her. So, I don't know how else to describe Katherine besides funny, generous, and homemaker.
Wow, love that for me. Thank you.
She's also really artistic. She's always been into like poetry, music. You know what? People also don't. Obviously, you're into music, but like Katherine would play the piano like all the time. I remember hearing her like Dashboard Confessional on the piano and like just really letting it out. She's been really into that. So yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I just blacked out and said a lot of words, but I hope that was a good picture of Katherine.
That's funny.
Katherine, describe your role in the family. I love this so much. How did you fit into the group?
Ooh, okay. So I would say my most obvious role in the family was definitely like a caretaker. And I really felt that from a young age. Like, I need to take care of my siblings. Like, I'm in charge of that. It wasn't even like anyone told me to. I just knew. I was like, I need to give them baths. I need to cook. I need to clean.
You gave Michael a bath, your older brother?
No, my 8 younger siblings, not my 2 older. They took care of themselves.
Good, that's good.
And not really you. You were too close to me that you could kind of take care of yourself. Yeah. Although I will say it's funny. One of my literal earliest memory, this is so weird and kind of gross, but like this is like such a marker of my personality. Lisa and I were in the bath together, and I was probably 4 or 5.
Scared.
And no, you didn't do anything. It's not about what I did.
I know. What did you
do? And then I was probably 4 or 5. Lisa was probably 2 or 3. This is my earliest memory. Lisa was afraid to put conditioner in her hair. And I was like, Lisa, conditioner does not hurt your eyes. I promise. And I took a blob of conditioner and I stuck it in my eye and I went, see?
Oh.
But it did kind of hurt, honestly. But she was afraid to put it on. So it's like,
look.
I feel like that's for some reason, that story is just very illustrative of like that personality. Like, I need to show you that this is not dangerous. You're going to be fine. Like, I don't know.
You're like, we were in the bath. I was like, where is this going? They're like, oh, okay.
Conditioner
in the eyes.
It was about the conditioner.
Gotcha.
Anyway, caretaker is really the most, like, I would say, obvious one.
Not the most healthy, but.
Yeah, it definitely got out of control for a very long time. I had to go to a lot of therapy for that, and I definitely tried to reel it back. And I think I've been pretty good about reeling it back, at least somewhat. And then I guess another element would kind of be like jokester a lot. Like, I would kind of try to keep the mood light and like make jokes or make people laugh. Or
you're kind of the class clown.
Yeah, like kind of klutzy, funny.
You took that role on way before I did, and I'm more in and out of it. You were very consistent. The class clown.
And I was more of like the big, like, kind of physical humor. Like, even in musical theater, I love doing like comedy. So that was kind of like, and I even made like the rules of comedy.
Yeah.
But I was like 15. I was like,
good.
These are the rules of comedy. Never repeat someone's joke unless you can say it better than they can. I had all these like certain rules. So
well, and never laugh at your own joke.
Yeah, never laugh at your own jokes. But I will say,
I feel like your class clown thing actually worked into your caretaker role because it was always to ease the tension.
Yeah.
Or like control the peace in the room. So it's kind of like a branch of your caretaker role.
Definitely.
In a way. Very weird.
Yeah, so that's definitely what I would say for my role in the familia.
Fascinating. What are your earliest memories of your experience with music?
Ooh, okay. I remember like loving music since I was really little, playing piano and singing. Like, we would literally fight over the piano.
Yes.
Like, me, Christina, and Lisa mainly, and then Amy and Lauren when they got old enough to play, like, we would be like fighting. No, it's my turn. You've been playing for like an hour.
We'd get home from somewhere and be like, I called dibs on the piano.
Yeah. But even when we were really little in like the old house, like, we'd be like, I'm playing, it's my turn.
Oh yeah.
So we were obsessed with that. And then also it was such a weird mix of music because like our mom is a classical pianist and then our dad loves like rock. So we kind of grew up with like this weird mixture of like our mom like playing classical all the time or like 80s pop music. And then our dad playing like 60s and 70s rock. And I loved riding in the car with dad because he would always like blast the music really loud. And I was like, I'm going to be like that when I have my own car. It's so cool. Mom doesn't play it loud enough. So I don't know. I just remember like genuinely loving it. And then as a teenager, really the way that I approached music was like my music taste became my identity. I was so obsessed, and I kind of to this day am. I've kind of pulled back a little bit. Like I was
feel like you judge people on their music taste.
I do. I'm very snob.
No, but more so.
I definitely did more as a teenager, and still a little bit. I kind of am a little bit snobby about music taste. Feel bad, but I'm just trying to let people enjoy what they like. But no, it's not even about that. I think you can enjoy stuff that's like cheesy or whatever. Like I don't care, but I get annoyed when people like music and you could kind of tell that they're just trying to be cool and it's not even about how good the song is. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Sucks.
Yeah, that's just my opinion. So, but I like one last thing I'll say is like I was so obsessed with like certain bands and stuff, and like as a teenager I loved Queen. Like that was one of my favorite bands.
So
and
good.
I literally would go on walks in our neighborhood and I'd have a certain song for a certain street that I had to listen to. Like it was my fave. And I will say to this day, my biggest inspirations for music that I literally think about every time I record are Stevie Wonder and Freddie Mercury. Those two are like my faves. And it's weird. They're both male. I probably should have found a female. Oh, I guess I like Whitney Houston too. But yeah, it's like about that soul and like the theatrical. I love that. So
eclectic.
A lot of people say, oh, you have a really unique voice. And I think that's why. Probably. Because my role models were a man and a man who are from like a different generation.
And a different genre. How did you deal with internet hate when you first experienced it, and how do you deal with it now?
This is such a tender question. Oof. Oh man, it was really, really bad for me. Really bad. I was like 17 when our first like video blew up. And I was literally shocked. Like, I had never felt so hated and like that people were so offended by me. And I think it was a combination of like, I was really tall and I was in the back and I kind of stood out, like, so everyone would be like the girl in the middle, and like she's really annoying, she's ugly, she can't sing, like or we've talked about this so much, like ranking us, like, oh, this one's the best singer and then this one's the worst. And I'd always see myself like second to last or last, and that just like crushed me because I was like, I always thought I was a pretty good singer. Like, I don't know why everyone thinks I'm horrible, which it wasn't even everyone. It was more just like certain people didn't like my voice for whatever, probably because it is kind of unique and not everyone loves that.
It's just a small, loud group of people.
Yeah, and I feel so much more like appreciated and loved for who I am by our fan base now. I truly do. Like, that's really something from the past, but it was very hard because as a 17-year-old especially, I had a really tender, fragile sense of security, and it just shattered. Like, I remember that even the day the Party in the USA video came out, I couldn't eat all day. Like, I would try to eat something and I felt like I was going to throw up because I just felt like I'd always felt like there was something wrong with me. And then suddenly it was like people were like proving it to me and they were strangers. So then it's like, oh, why would a stranger lie? You know? So I really dealt with it, quote unquote, by shutting down. I didn't want to have any attention in the band. I didn't want anyone to think that I was trying. I didn't want anyone to think that I was, makes me kind of emotional, but I didn't want anyone to think that I was trying to be pretty or that I was trying to be a good singer, because I just didn't want to be compared. So I tried to take myself out of the race. And that was actually one of the main reasons that I cut my hair really short, because I wanted to differentiate myself from the other girls who had long hair and be like, they're trying to be pretty, but I'm not. So don't compare me to them. So it was kind of like a very spiritual thing for me when I decided to grow my hair out, because that was me saying, I'm allowed to do this thing that I actually kind of like, and I don't have to be compared for it. Even if someone does, like, it doesn't have power over me. So I think I really just removed myself, and I didn't really allow myself to even think about the internet. I like, kind of like you're saying, like, I kind of just stopped going online as much, and Twitter and Instagram. I didn't really interact with the fans as much. I interacted with the fan mail because that was a safer place for me. Like, I knew those were people that liked us.
Oh, nice.
And they weren't likely to say mean things. So that's where I really got a lot of my encouragement. But I really had to go to therapy and really just find self-worth through myself, through the people that I actually knew, my friends, my family. Like, I had to go on a long healing journey, and then finally realize, like, I think only in the last like probably 2 years I've really been stepping out a little more in the internet and like showing myself and not being afraid or ashamed because of how hard it was in the very beginning.
Well, I feel like people got to know you and how funny you were and like your talents, and all this stuff, and really started to appreciate you. Yeah. But you, like, within a few years of our career, but you didn't start to share yourself and see that until more recently. Like, oh, people do.
And people would always say, like, Kath's so underrated. And it's like, yeah, because I was hiding. I didn't want to be out in the front. Anytime someone was like, oh, does anyone want to do this extra solo or this extra, clip or whatever, I'd be like, no, it's fine. I don't want to do it. I wanted as little attention as possible because I saw it as such a negative thing.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, and also what you said about the trying thing, it's like if you fail, quote, at something you're not trying at, it's less painful.
It's less painful, yeah.
But it always hurts. It really does. You can't
hurt,
make it hurt less. Well, that's terrible. You didn't deserve that.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just burped. How's your experience being in the band changed over the years, which is kind of an extension of that question.
Yeah, that's like a very similar question. I think, kind of like Lisa said, I took on very much like a caretaker motherly role in the band. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but like we would go to these meetings with like these execs or whatever, and I would like bake cookies for them, or like we would go to the studio and I'd be in charge of getting the snacks, or like we'd go on a trip and I'd be in charge of planning out like different restaurants or where are we gonna eat. I was always the more like caring caretaker one, and I didn't really value my own artistic voice, contributing many lyrics or like ideas. And Lauren actually really encouraged me in that in the last couple of years. Lauren was really the one to be like, Kath, you have really good artistic ideas. Like, you should share them more. So like even getting to do a spoken word poem on our album that we came out with 2 years ago, I Love You or whatever, that was really cool for me because I always thought, oh, my poetic voice is not right for Cimorelli. Cimorelli is a pop band and I'm more abstract, poetic-y, and it's not the right voicing. It doesn't fit in. And then I realized, no, Cimorelli is me and my sisters. Like, it is us. it is not anything that people think it should be or fits. It doesn't fit in a box. So if all of our voices are not being represented, that's not an accurate representation of who Cimorelli truly is. So I've really been trying to like step out more and share. And I've been doing a lot more like written stuff for the band and adding a lot more of my own voice. So I would say that's really been the biggest, kind of like similar to you, like in a different way though. Like I found my own voice in the band and didn't let fear control me like over the years. So I would say I've really like grown a lot as a member of the band.
Oh yeah, I feel like because you detached early on, not that I'm interviewing myself or something, but I feel like because you detached earlier on, you didn't take on as much of a role until later.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if you look back, you actually did contribute a lot of key song lyrics and stuff. I think it's one of those things where if you're not looking for it, you won't see it, because you were like, oh, you were detached or whatever, so you just throw something out that would be brilliant and then we would use it. And she always like filled in the gaps in the songs in these great ways, especially the more quirky songs. But then because you didn't see yourself as some big contributing member, then you're like, I don't know if it registered for you how much you contributed to the songwriting, because you're just like, whatever. But if you look back, like, you were involved.
No, that's true. And I really appreciate that. And also like another thing that I think has been kind of consistent for me from the beginning is like the message. Like Christine and I kind of have like, and I think we all like love the message and have like gotten behind it. But I think Christine and I especially have really like spearheaded that and like pushed it out and pushed it forward, because we both were so, I don't know, just like both of us are kind of like very into like that. I don't know what the word is for it, like justice, but it's just like we both kind of pushed that a lot. And then I don't know, that's just something that I feel like has been a big role for me, is like reminding us of like the message and trying to keep getting that pushed outward. So yeah.
Well, here's the fun question for me, at least. What was the coolest moment of an artist that you covered or that we covered discovering our music?
Okay. This is kind of weird for me because I don't really like that many mainstream, like
Taylor Swift. You used to love her.
I used to love Taylor Swift, but I don't think she really put out did she say anything about our covers before, or was it just recently?
But that was a moment.
It was cool. It was cool. But I feel like, but by the time it happened, I wasn't as much of a fan of her. Although I thought it was
wasn't that cool?
Yeah, it was cool. I don't know. It's weird because I always see my sisters getting really excited, like Justin Bieber or whatever. This person like tweeted or commented it, and I get excited too, but not really that much. I'm just being honest.
She's trying to be cool still.
No, it's true
all these
though.
years.
It's true though. I think what has been more exciting for me is, sounds kind of bad, but like kind of like that it's opened a door for me to like meet and talk to bands that I really like, because they see that I'm in a band. People have seen that and been like, oh, cool. Like I've talked to a lot of my favorite bands and gotten to like, they've gotten me tickets to their shows, or like I've gotten to go backstage. So like that has actually been a way cooler experience for me.
Of course, but that's not what the question is. She just here for the networking.
It's not even about the networking though. It's getting to
it's
getting to meet and go to shows of your favorite band.
Networking is useful.
Is cool.
Networking
that's not networking,
will not hurt
networking is to advance your career, and that's not advancing my career.
No, I don't think it's only to advance your career.
Oh.
It's just to build your network.
I thought it was.
No, it's just to build your network. Then if you're like, oh, let's work together, then you do it. But I think it's
never worked with any of them though. But
yeah, you could have. All right. Well, you also didn't you get to talk to some of your favorite authors or something?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
so that's been a privilege.
That is a big part.
Favorite author, some favorite bands. That was pretty cool.
What would you say to yourself back when we had just started the band?
Oh, man, I don't even know, because I don't even know if I would have been able to get through to myself at that age. I think I was just so deeply damaged that I had to experience what I experienced and go through it in the order that it happened and take those years. I don't think anything I could have said would have prevented the way that I felt when people said those things about me. I think it was just, I am grateful for it, and I think that it has made me the person that I am. And if I could say something, even though I probably wouldn't even listen to it, I probably would just say, don't be so hard on yourself. It's not your job to like look the way that people think you should look, or sing the way that they think you should sing, or be how they think you should be. Like, your personality is not annoying. You are genuinely weird and funny and outgoing and loud and perky and happy. Like, that's how you are. And people think that's fake, but it's not fake. It's who you are. So just do it. It doesn't matter what people say. I still don't think I would have listened to that because I was just so deeply like,
yeah.
But that's probably what I would have said.
Well, I would say too that you've ended up at such a better place than anyone who relies on the opposite of like,
that's true.
Kylie Jenner types who have the whole world at their feet. It's like the internet loves me, but they still get a lot of hate. But it's like when things crash on those people who live off of, I mean, I'm not hating on Kylie Jenner. I'm saying anyone who gets a lot of validation from the internet, when that is taken away, it's so crushing versus you learned off the gate.
Yeah, I think
whatever.
So.
Off the bat, I don't know what that is. You learned right out of the gate that doesn't like sustain your life. So
that's true. I will say, like, I'm grateful, and I feel like I almost got protected in a way because I didn't feel connected to the internet as like a source of validation, because it wasn't a source of validation.
A lot of people end up feeling the way that you felt early on, but they get thrown up and then slammed down.
Right.
But
I was just
still
slammed
terrible.
down first and then kind of slowly went up a little.
Yeah, but you went down and then up.
Yeah.
Which is way better than most people up and down.
And I would say I lived a great normal life. Like, I just kind of detached. I was like, I love my life with my normal friends and my normal things that I do. Like, I'm just a normal person. I like
definitely pros and cons.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got a couple more questions left. I feel like I'm a radio host. What would you say is your greatest strength and your greatest weakness?
Ooh, so I kind of had time to think about this when Lisa was answering hers, and I would say similarly.
Great, so you weren't listening.
No, I was listening. You said it was your attention to detail, and that can be, and your criticism, and then that can be a good and a bad thing.
Great.
So similarly to that type of double-edged sword, I would say my greatest strength and weakness would be my empathy for people, and that has led me to a really amazing place of connection, and it has also led me to a really dark place of just kind of giving too much of myself until I run dry a lot. So I have to be really careful about that and putting up boundaries. But I love my empathy, and I would not change it about myself. I love feeling things so deeply and feeling so deeply connected to people. I feel very alive. I just have to be careful because I got taken advantage of a lot when I was younger, and just really like people seeing that, I guess, care and wanting to like take it and use it and kind of suck it dry. So I had to be really careful about putting up those boundaries and protecting myself. And I don't know, I feel like that's helped me grow in self-love to feel just as protective of myself as I do of other people.
And that leads us to our last question, which is, what is a common misconception about you?
Oof. Okay, so I feel like I've probably mentioned this before on the internet.
I already know what it is.
Because I probably say it every time because I answered this question. I think that people mistake, I don't know what the word is for it. People mistake you choosing not to do certain things morally as being naive.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else.
Oh, what do you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to say everyone thinks you're an introvert because that's the biggest misconception.
Well, yeah.
Everyone's like, Katherine's so serious. She's so quiet.
That's true. Okay, that is a misconception. People think I'm an introvert. I'm not an introvert.
She's so not. The way that they describe her personality is actually the opposite of like quiet and serious and like brooding.
Well, I was going to say that, and this might actually be an old misconception from like earlier days, but I feel like people had this thing a couple of years ago where it was like, Katherine she lives in the kitchen and bakes cupcakes, and people would say some kind of degrading things, like acting like I was just this very like sheltered person. But again, kind of like you said with the phone, like if you don't have my number, you don't know me. Like, I don't know. That's just hard because people don't know the things that I've seen, and I don't choose to share a lot of those things, but I've seen a lot of things, and that doesn't mean that just because I choose not to do certain things doesn't mean that I haven't witnessed a lot that was very dark and very heavy. And that is actually the reason I choose not to do certain things. I have a poem on my Tumblr called The Smell of Alcohol. And that's like an example if you want to read that. It's just basically about being exposed to like addiction and different elements of that and why I choose not to drink. And it's not from being sheltered or forced. That's another common misconception. Like people think our family is Amish and that like which nothing wrong with Amish people, but you know, they think that we are, and that like our parents don't drink or something and they like forced their morals on us, but like that's not even true.
My parents never even said you're not allowed to drink. I never heard those words at
both
any
of our
age.
Parents drink. Our mom doesn't really like drinking because it gives her headaches, but our dad loves wine and has always been a wine enthusiast. Like our older brother drinks. Like it's very common in our family, and it's just something that some of us have chosen not to do. So anyway, common misconception that like just because you choose not to do something, you don't know
You've
what
never
it is.
heard of
You've
it.
never even heard of it. Yeah. And that's another one is that people think I'm introverted, but I'm not introverted at all.
No.
And I'm very social and people oriented. For some reason it doesn't come through on the internet a lot.
I think because in the beginning you were so outgoing and then you got shot down and then you just withdrew a lot.
Yeah.
Like you don't open up as much
honestly,
on the cameras.
And this could be self-fulfilling prophecy, but I do get kind of tired sometimes when we're filming for hours. So I kind of just get kind of like.
No, you kind of start off though where you're just, you just withdraw.
Unless I get like
bit.
slap happy.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just not as much anymore.
It just depends. Depends on the day.
Still there. Well. Thank you, Kath, for coming on the show. Such a great time getting to chat with you.
And thank you, Lisa.
You.
Good to get to know you, too.
It's great talking with you. So that's all we have for you. If you want to see Christina, Amy, Lauren, not Katherine, we already did yours, right? Christina, Lauren, and Amy's interviews, then join our Patreon because those episodes will only be on Patreon. And we have them interviewing each other, and it's really great stuff. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure you join our Patreon, and you can see the rest of all of our podcast episodes on there. Half of our podcast episodes are on our Patreon. Also, the Patreon funds the podcast, so shout out to you guys. You are the reason for the season, the podcast season.
Yes. Well, thanks for watching, guys. It was fun hanging with you today. We'll see you guys next time.
We love you, and we'll see you on the next one.
You've been listening to the Cimorelli podcast. Follow Cimorelli on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube. You can also find Cimorelli on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.